The city was alive, neon lights flickering against the rain-slicked streets, reflecting in the puddles like shattered promises. I had no idea that tonight everything would change, that I would cross a line I promised myself I'd never touch. "You're mine tonight," he said, softly. Not like a threat, but like a promise. My heart thudded in my chest, reckless, wild, unable to ignore the pull between us. I had seen him before. Him, the man everyone whispered about. The Mafia boss whose name alone could stop conversations, whose presence could bend the room. But tonight, he looked at me differently. Where are you listening to this story from? Drop a comment below and let me know. I love hearing from you. And if you're enjoying these Mafia boss romance stories, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. It wasn't just desire. It was ownership, wrapped in silk and danger. He leaned closer, and the scent of his cologne, sharp and intoxicating, filled my senses. I tried to look away, to resist, but I couldn't. Every instinct in me screamed yes, even though my mind shouted no. In that moment, I realized something terrifyingly exhilarating. I had no idea what I was stepping into. But part of me wanted it, wanted him. The air between us crackled, heavy with tension, a promise dangling on the edge of something I couldn't name. And just like that, my night and my life was no longer mine. The hotel suite smelled of polished wood, fresh linens and faint traces of expensive cologne, his cologne. The city lights streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting the room in soft golds and deep blues. I could barely breathe, my hands trembling slightly as I closed the door behind me. He didn't speak at first. He just watched me, leaning casually against the desk, arms crossed, eyes dark and unreadable. There was a weight in his gaze that made my knees weak, a dangerous magnet pulling me closer even though my mind screamed caution. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered, my voice thinner than I intended. "I told you," he said, stepping closer, the sound of his boots echoing on the marble floor. "You are here. That's all that matters." His voice was low, velvety, a mix of command and temptation. Every word felt like it had been designed to make me forget everything else in the world. I backed toward the window, my fingers brushing against the cool glass. The city stretched endlessly beneath us, and yet it felt like the whole world had narrowed down to this suite, to him, to the electricity crackling between us. He reached out, fingers lightly grazing my cheek. It was a small, deliberate touch, and my entire body reacted before my mind could. I shivered. "You're playing with fire," I said, though my tone lacked conviction. "Maybe," he murmured, closing the distance between us. "But some fires are worth it." The air changed the moment he closed the gap. His presence was overwhelming, commanding, intoxicating. Every rational thought I'd tried to cling to evaporated. My heart pounded, loud enough I was sure he could hear it. And then, his hand cupped my face fully, thumb brushing against my lips. My breath hitched, a mixture of fear, desire, and an excitement I couldn't name. "You don't have to resist," he whispered. "Not tonight. Not with me." I wanted to fight him, to step back and remember every warning I'd ever told myself. But when his lips brushed mine, soft at first, testing, then more urgent, the fight left me entirely. The world outside disappeared. There was only heat, only tension, only the undeniable pull that made me ache to be closer. His hand slid down my arms, tracing patterns that set fire through my veins. The danger of him, the Mafia boss, the untouchable man everyone feared, was intoxicating, thrilling. And yet beneath it all there was a strange tenderness, an almost imperceptible care that made me question why I'd ever doubted stepping into this storm. By the time the kiss deepened, I realized I wasn't just caught in his orbit, I wanted to be. Every nerve, every instinct screamed yes, and I let myself fall, surrendering to the night, to him, to whatever this dangerous, beautiful thing between us was beginning to become. The moment the door clicked shut behind us, the air seemed to thicken. His eyes never left mine, dark, intense, impossible to read. And yet, they spoke volumes. Desire, ownership, a promise. I sank onto the edge of the bed, hands gripping the sheets as if they could anchor me to reality. Reality, however, was a fleeting concept tonight. The city outside glittered like it was alive with secrets, and I was about to become one of them. He didn't rush. That was the scariest and most thrilling part. He moved slowly, deliberately, like a predator circling his prey, but in a way that felt almost gentle. His hand hovered near mine, close enough to burn, and I couldn't stop myself from inching toward it. "You know," he said, voice low, "most people run when they see me coming. I'm not most people," I whispered, my throat dry, every nerve in my body humming. He smiled, just a hint, and crouched slightly, bringing his face closer to mine. "No, you're different. Dangerous, in a way I can't resist." The words were meant to entice, to unsettle, and they did both. My chest tightened, my heartbeat erratic. I could feel the warmth of him even before he touched me, an invisible pull that made it impossible to think clearly. His hand brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, fingers grazing my neck in a way that made my skin tingle. I closed my eyes, leaning into the touch, knowing fully well that I shouldn't. And yet, I couldn't stop myself. The tension between us had grown too heavy, too electric to ignore. "I should be careful with you," he murmured. One wrong move, and his lips hovered near mine, the words unfinished. But I knew the danger he implied. "Do you want me to stop?" I asked, breathless. He shook his head almost imperceptibly. "No, I want you. And tonight, nothing else matters." Then, as if a switch had been flipped, the distance between us evaporated. His hands found my waist, pulling me up onto him, and the kiss deepened. Hungry, urgent, demanding. I gasped against him, the sound lost in the heat of the moment, and for the first time, I let go of my hesitation. It wasn't just physical. Not entirely. Every touch, every brush of skin, carried an unspoken message. He wanted more than just a fleeting connection. He wanted me. And part of me, terrifyingly, wonderfully, wanted him too. The world outside the suite ceased to exist. Rain tapped lightly against the windows, the city's pulse distant, inconsequential. There was only him, only me, and the dangerous, irresistible gravity that had pulled us together tonight. And somewhere, deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The rain outside had grown heavier, tapping against the glass like a secret drumbeat, keeping time with my racing heart. He didn't let go, didn't allow me to step back, and somehow that made every nerve in my body hum. His hands were steady on my waist, holding me in place, yet there was a softness in his touch that contradicted the dangerous man I knew him to be. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered again, even though I knew I was lying. My voice trembled, betraying the desire I tried to deny. He leaned closer, so close that I could feel the heat of his breath on my neck. "And yet, you are," he said low and intimate, "and I'm not letting you go. Not tonight." The words sent a shiver down my spine. There was a promise in them, a dangerous promise, yes, but also something almost tender. My hands instinctively went to his chest, feeling the solid strength beneath the suit, and I realized how close I had come to losing myself in him. He caught my hands gently, pulling them down to his sides, then took my face in his palms again. His eyes searched mine, dark, unreadable, and for a moment, I thought I could see everything there. Desire, control, something like, "Care, you don't have to fight me," he whispered. "I won't hurt you, not if you don't want me to. But if you let me, we'll both feel alive tonight, more alive than either of us has in a long time." And God, how that sounded like temptation I couldn't resist. I wanted it. I wanted him, but my mind screamed caution. He was dangerous, powerful, a man who could ruin lives with a single decision. Yet when his lips brushed mine, soft, testing, I couldn't pull away. I leaned in, letting the warmth of his mouth steal the words I couldn't say. His hands traveled from my waist to my back, drawing me impossibly close, and I felt it. The magnetic pull I had resisted since the moment I saw him. Every inch of me screamed yes, even when my brain tried to whisper no. "You're trembling," he murmured against my lips, his voice husky. Do you want this, really? I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. I don't know, I admitted, though the truth was clear in the way my body pressed against his. Then let me show you, he said, with a slow, deliberate urgency that made my knees weak. And with that, he deepened the kiss, his hands tracing lines that made my skin burn, making me dizzy with a mixture of fear, excitement, and desire I had never felt before. The line between control and surrender blurred, between danger and temptation, between what was forbidden and what felt inevitable. And in that moment, I realized that this wasn't just about tonight. It was about us, about a pull neither of us could or wanted to resist. The city lights outside shimmered, casting fleeting shadows across the room. And I knew, without a doubt, that whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same again. The room was thick with heat and the lingering scent of him. My heartbeat hadn't slowed since the last kiss. And yet, a small, nagging voice in my head whispered warnings I couldn't fully ignore. He was dangerous, untouchable, a man whose world I didn't belong in. And still, I wanted him. He pulled back just slightly, enough for me to see the storm in his eyes. There was hunger there, yes, but also something else. A question, a hesitation. You're mine tonight, he murmured again, the same words that had started this entire firestorm between us. But this time they weren't just a promise, they were a test. I whispered, my hands brushing against his chest as if I could hold him at arm's length. My body betrayed me, leaning closer anyway, drawn to him like gravity. I don't belong here. With you. His jaw tightened, and then he smiled. Not a cruel smile, but one that made my stomach flip. You belong wherever you want to be, he said softly, a dangerous tenderness in his voice. And tonight, you're here, with me. There it was again, the pull I couldn't fight. I wanted to resist, to tell him no, to run, but his presence wrapped around me, making every rational thought feel like a distant memory. His hands traced lines along my arms, lingering in ways that set fire through my veins. You feel it too, don't you? He asked, voice low, teasing, almost a growl. The way we can't stop? I swallowed hard, trembling, my lips parting without words. I couldn't deny it. Every nerve, every cell in me screamed yes. And yet the danger of it all, the forbidden thrill, the Mafia boss whose power could ruin everything, made my heart race with something more than desire. Fear. Excitement. A dangerous cocktail I couldn't resist. He leaned close, his forehead resting lightly against mine. I'm not asking, he murmured. I'm telling you, you're mine tonight. But I promise, I won't hurt you. Not in the way you fear. The sincerity in his voice made my resolve crumble. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to surrender. My hands clutched at his suit jacket, pulling him closer, needing every inch of him. Every touch, every whispered word, made me forget the world outside the hotel room, the city that never slept, the warnings I should have listened to. And then, just as the tension threatened to explode, he kissed me again, slow, deliberate, consuming. Not just a kiss, but a claim, a declaration, and in that moment, I realized that it didn't matter what I should do. What mattered was what I wanted. I wanted him. Tonight. Right now. And as the rain streaked the windows, as the city's hum faded into nothingness, I let go completely. The rain drummed steadily against the glass, a soft percussion that mirrored the rapid thrum of my heart. I was pressed against him, feeling the heat radiate from his body, every heartbeat syncing with my own. The room had shrunk to the two of us, the world outside forgotten. But even here, danger lingered in the air, just beyond the walls. He pulled back slightly, just enough to study my face, his dark eyes searching for something I wasn't sure I could give. You're trembling, he murmured, thumb brushing against my cheek. It's more than desire, isn't it? I swallowed, unsure of how to answer. The truth was messy, complicated. Fear, longing, thrill, all tangled together in a knot that I couldn't untie. I don't know, I admitted, my voice small, almost ashamed. I've never felt like this before, with anyone. His lips curved in a slow, deliberate smile. Neither have I, he whispered. That's why tonight, This isn't just about pleasure. It's about understanding, about connection. I looked at him, searching for the truth in those dangerous, commanding eyes. Beneath the edge, beneath the power and the thrill, there was something else. A softness, a vulnerability he rarely let anyone see. It was intoxicating, terrifying, and I wanted it. "Tell me," he said gently, lowering his forehead to mine. "Tell me what scares you, what excites you. I need to know you, completely." The words were a key, unlocking emotions I hadn't intended to reveal. I hesitated, heart pounding, but something in his unwavering gaze urged me forward. "I'm scared," I admitted, voice trembling. Scared of losing myself, of letting go too far, of being claimed. His fingers traced the line of my jaw slowly, thoughtfully. "You'll never lose yourself with me," he said softly. "I don't take, I give, and tonight I want to give you everything, in a way that's only ours. Only tonight." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to trust him. And as his hands slid down to my waist, pulling me impossibly closer, I felt the knot of fear loosen slightly. My head fell against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. And for the first time tonight, I allowed myself to breathe without thinking of consequences. "Do you want me to stay like this?" he whispered, voice rough with emotion and desire. "Or do you want more?" I lifted my face, meeting his gaze. Desire, fear, and longing swirled in my chest. "I want more," I admitted, the words tasting of surrender and thrill. And with that, he claimed me again. Not recklessly, not forcefully, but with an intensity that left no room for hesitation. Each kiss, each brush of skin, deepened our connection, unraveling walls I hadn't known existed. I realized in that hotel suite, pressed against the man who was simultaneously danger and sanctuary, that the night was far from over, and neither of us would emerge unchanged. The room had become a blur of shadows and gold light, the city's glow bleeding through the curtains like a distant promise. Every brush of his hand, every inch of closeness felt electric, like it could ignite the air around us. I was consumed, lost, and yet aware. Danger lingered beneath the intensity, and that only made the night feel more alive. He leaned over me on the bed, his body a heat I could feel pressing against mine. His lips grazed my shoulder, slow, teasing, and I shivered involuntarily. "You feel that?" he murmured, his voice low and rough. "The pull, it's undeniable." I could only nod, my fingers clutching the sheets as though they could anchor me to reality. But reality had left long ago. All that remained was him, his intoxicating presence, and the overwhelming ache of desire coursing through me. "You're dangerous," I whispered, voice trembling. "Being this close, I shouldn't want it." He smiled, a dangerous, knowing smile, and kissed the corner of my mouth. "I'm dangerous," he admitted. "And you're exactly where you're meant to be, with me." His hands roamed my back, tracing lines that made me gasp, each touch a spark that traveled straight to my core. The pull between us wasn't just physical. It was an invisible thread, winding tighter with every heartbeat, every stolen breath. And even as fear whispered that I shouldn't, part of me wanted nothing more than to surrender completely. I tilted my head, pressing against him, letting go of restraint, even if just for a moment. "I can't resist," I admitted softly, almost a confession. "Good," he murmured, his lips finding mine again, deep and claiming. "Because I don't plan on letting you." Every kiss was more urgent than the last, more consuming, and the boundaries between us blurred. His hands pulled me closer, his body a protective weight, a dangerous promise that I was entirely his for this night. I realized that desire wasn't the only thing that held me here. There was trust, too, fragile, new, but growing stronger with every heartbeat. And then, a sudden knock at the door. Both of us froze. The room, once a sanctuary of heat and desire, suddenly felt precarious, exposed. His eyes darkened, a mix of warning and possessive intensity. "Who?" he muttered under his breath. I swallowed hard, my pulse skyrocketing. The intrusion, real or imagined, thrust us into tension, breaking the intimate bubble we'd been lost in. The danger that had always hovered now felt immediate, and yet, even in that moment, his hand found mine, squeezing lightly, anchoring me. "We'll finish this," he whispered, voice low. "Dangerous. No one will stop us." Not tonight. The promise hung in the air like fire, and despite the sudden threat, the fear only heightened the intensity between us. The night wasn't over, not by a long shot, and I knew that whatever came next, I would follow him, willingly, recklessly, completely. The knock on the door reverberated through the suite, sharp and jarring against the otherwise intimate hum of the room. My heart skipped a beat, panic and desire colliding in my chest. He froze above me, jaw tight, eyes flashing with a dangerous storm I had learned to both fear and crave. "Stay," he commanded softly, almost a growl, his hand pressing against my shoulder to keep me still. There was no question in his voice, only authority and the weight of a promise I didn't dare break. I nodded, unable to speak, as he moved toward the door. Each step he took made the tension in the room coil tighter. I could see the danger flicker across his features, the careful calculation of a man who commanded power in every part of his life. When he opened the door, a messenger stood there inconspicuous, holding a sealed envelope. The momentary interruption seemed insignificant to anyone else, but in that fragile bubble we had created, it was enough to jolt every nerve in me awake. He took the envelope with a single word, "Thanks," and closed the door again. The tension broke, but only slightly. His eyes returned to me, dark, stormy, full of possession and something else. Something softer. "Don't move," he said. And then, without warning, he was back beside me, fingers threading through mine. My pulse jumped at the proximity. Every rational thought dissolved in the heat radiating from him. I thought, maybe, I stammered, voice low, that maybe we should what? He interrupted, a slight smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Stop, pause. You think a knock at the door changes us?" I shook my head, words failing me. And then he was leaning down, brushing my lips with his once more, this time slower, deliberate, leaving no room for hesitation, no space for fear. The kiss was a statement, a claim, a promise wrapped in danger. "You see," he murmured, breaking away just enough to look into my eyes. "Even the world outside, messengers, alarms, interruptions, they mean nothing when it comes to this. When it comes to you." Every nerve in me ignited. I pressed into him instinctively, letting go of every lingering thought of caution. The envelope on the desk, the distant hum of the city outside, the threat of danger, all faded into irrelevance. There was only him, only the heat, the pull, the undeniable gravity that had held us together since the moment I stepped into this suite. His hands traced my back, down to my hips, grounding me in the moment, and the room seemed smaller, hotter, charged with the intensity of our forbidden connection. Every hesitation I had melted under his touch. Every doubt I carried dissolved with the taste of his lips. And in that stolen, intimate space, I realized something terrifying and thrilling. No one, nothing could pull me away from him tonight. Not the city, not the danger, not even myself. The storm outside raged on, a mirror to the storm between us. And I knew with absolute certainty that the night and this connection was far from over. The city lights outside blurred as my world narrowed to him. Every heartbeat, every subtle touch, was magnified in the charged silence of the suite. He hovered close, a mix of control and warmth that left me breathless, and I realized just how vulnerable I had become in his presence. Vulnerable, and wanting more. He cupped my face again, thumb brushing along my jawline with deliberate care. "Do you trust me?" His voice was low, teasing, yet threaded with something tender beneath the rough edge. I hesitated, swallowing hard. Trust wasn't easy for me, never had been, and yet something about him made the word slip from my lips almost without thinking. "Yes," I admitted, voice barely above a whisper. I trust you." His lips curved, a faint, knowing smile. "Good," he murmured, "because there are things you don't know about me. Things I haven't told anyone, and tonight, I want to share them with you." I felt a shiver run through me at the intimacy implied. The idea that he, untouchable, powerful, feared, would reveal himself to me. It was intoxicating. "Why me?" I asked softly. "Why tonight?" "Because you're different," he said, brushing a stray hair from my face. "You see me? Not the man everyone fears, not the boss. You see me." His eyes held mine, dark and compelling. "And I want you to see all of me, even the dangerous parts." I didn't know what to say. All I could do was lean closer, letting his words wash over me, letting his nearness overwhelm the caution I had tried to cling to. And when his lips found mine again, soft, insistent, claiming, it wasn't just passion that ignited. It was trust. It was connection. His hands traced paths along my back, exploring the curves and lines of my body as if memorizing every inch. Every touch carried a dual message: desire and protection, ownership and care. My pulse raced, a heady mixture of fear and thrill, each second stretching endlessly in the tension between us. "You're incredible," he whispered against my lips, breath warm and intoxicating. More than I expected, more than I could have imagined. "I'm scared," I admitted, voice trembling. "Scared of how much I want this. How much I want you." He smiled softly, brushing his forehead against mine. "That's the point," he said almost reverently. "The fear, the thrill, the desire, they're all part of it. Part of tonight, part of us." And just like that, every hesitation melted, every fear dissolved. I let myself lean into him fully, surrendering to the pull, the heat, the undeniable force that had drawn us together. Outside, the city buzzed with life and danger, but inside this suite, there was only him, only me, only the forbidden, exquisite tension that bound us so tightly. The night had only just begun, and I knew with every fiber of my being that nothing, no rule, no warning, no fear, would stop me from wanting him completely. The room felt impossibly small, charged with heat and tension, every shadow and flicker of city light framing us in a private world that no one else could enter. I was pressed against him, his hands guiding me, steadying me, commanding yet gentle, and I realized how far I had fallen into this dangerous orbit. "You're intoxicating," he murmured, voice low, rough with desire. "More than I expected, more than I can resist." I swallowed hard, heart hammering. I shouldn't be here," I whispered, even as my body betrayed my words, leaning instinctively into him. "I shouldn't want this." "Want you." His lips brushed against mine, slow, deliberate, and every rational thought I had evaporated like smoke. "Rules don't exist tonight," he said, hand sliding down my back to pull me impossibly closer. "There's no outside world, only this. Only us." The air between us thickened, a tangible force that pressed against my chest and made it impossible to think straight. His gaze held mine, dark and magnetic, and I felt a shiver of both fear and anticipation run through me. This was more than desire now, more than temptation. It was a pull I couldn't resist, a gravity that had claimed me entirely. I don't know if I can," I stammered, my hands clutching at his shirt, trembling in the intensity of the moment. "Then let me show you," he whispered, voice low and commanding. "Let me guide you. Trust me." I nodded, breathless, surrendering completely. Every hesitation, every doubt, every warning I'd clung to dissolved under his touch. His hands traced slow, deliberate paths over me, memorizing, claiming, igniting sparks that left me dizzy with want. The room seemed to shrink further, every sound, the rain, our breaths, the hum of the city, fading into irrelevance. His lips found mine again, deeper, harder, but still deliberate, careful. Every brush of skin against skin sent a shock through me, a reminder that this connection was more than fleeting lust. There was intimacy here, raw and consuming. Vulnerability, desire, trust, all tangled together, impossible to separate. "You're mine tonight," he murmured again, the words now a declaration, a turning point. Not just in this moment, but in a way you can't take back. I shivered, leaning into him, my pulse racing. Yes, I was his tonight, and despite the danger, despite the warnings, despite the part of me that knew this was reckless, I didn't want it any other way. The rain streaked the windows, the city lights shimmering through the glass, but none of it mattered. There was only us, only the night, only the undeniable, consuming pull that had drawn us together and would keep us entwined, no matter what came next. And in that room, with him holding me, claiming me, I realized that the night had just begun, and nothing, not fear, not rules, not danger, could stop what was already in motion. The room pulsed with heat, the city lights painting streaks of gold and blue across his sharp features. I was pressed against him, every nerve ending alive, every thought consumed by the dangerous magnet pulling us together. And yet, beneath the fire of desire, a quiet tension lingered, an unspoken reminder that nothing about this night was simple. He traced a line from my jaw down to my collarbone, and I gasped, unable to stop myself. "You feel that?" he whispered, his lips brushing my skin. "That's us. That's everything between us." "Yes," I breathed, voice trembling, heart racing. "I feel it. I can't resist it." A slow, deliberate smile curved his lips. "Good. You won't. Not tonight." His eyes softened for the briefest moment, revealing something I hadn't expected. Vulnerability. A flicker of a man who, despite his power, craved connection as desperately as I did. But then the tension returned. His gaze sharpened, darkening. "There's something you need to know," he murmured. "Something about me, about what I can't control." My stomach tightened, a mix of fear and anticipation. "What is it?" He leaned closer, voice low, almost a growl. "Danger follows me, always, and being with me, you're stepping into it." His hands tightened around mine, grounding me, pulling me closer. "But I need you to understand this. You can't turn back, not once tonight begins." I swallowed hard, my pulse thundering in my ears, and yet instead of fear, desire surged stronger, hotter. Every warning I'd carried dissolved in the intensity of him, the way he held me, the way he looked at me. I don't care," I admitted softly. "I want this. I want you, no matter what." His lips found mine, slow, deliberate, consuming. Every brush of skin, every press of his body against mine, sent shivers cascading through me. Desire wasn't just physical anymore. It was dangerous, urgent, and completely inevitable. And as he kissed me, claimed me, I realized that the risk only made the connection more intoxicating. "You're mine," he whispered between kisses, voice husky and raw. "All of you, for tonight, and maybe for longer than that." The words sent a shiver through me. Longer than tonight? Part of me wanted to believe it, wanted to surrender entirely. But the danger, the unknown, the power he wielded over everything around him, was a reminder that desire came with a price. And yet, in that moment, pressed to him, I didn't care. The storm outside echoed the storm inside us, the electricity between every touch, every glance, every breath. And I knew, deep down, that the night wasn't just about passion. It was about trust, surrender, and the dangerous thrill of letting someone like him into my world, completely. And even as fear and desire tangled together, I realized one thing with absolute certainty. I wouldn't be walking away tonight. Not from him, not from this, not from what we had already begun. The suite was heavy with heat and tension, every breath between us shallow and urgent. I pressed against him, my hands tangled in his hair, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath my palms. Every inch of the room seemed charged, as though it existed solely for us, until the knock came. A sharp, insistent knock on the door shattered the fragile bubble we had created. My chest tightened, fear and anticipation colliding in a rush of adrenaline. He froze for a split second, jaw tight, eyes darkening, and I realized just how real the danger was, even here, even in this private sanctuary. "Stay," he whispered, voice low and dangerous, fingers pressing against my waist to ground me. "No matter what happens, don't move." I nodded, trembling, as he strode toward the door, his presence radiating authority and control. He opened it to reveal a man, well-dressed, official-looking, holding a folder, but the details didn't matter. What mattered was the interruption. The intrusion, the reminder that our night, our intimacy, existed in a world where danger was never far behind. A few quiet words were exchanged, curt, clipped, and then the man left. But the tension lingered, thick in the air. He closed the door, leaning against it for a brief moment, and then turned to me. His eyes, stormy and magnetic, pinned me in place. "You see?" he murmured, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. "Even here, I can't control everything. But tonight, you belong to me, completely." My pulse raced, fear and desire intertwining in a dizzying spiral. I don't care," I whispered, voice trembling. "I want you. Now. Even with everything else." His lips found mine immediately, slow and deliberate, claiming me again in a way that erased the tension and replaced it with fire. His hands roamed, tracing paths that left me shivering, every nerve ending alive with sensation. But beneath the passion, there was a tenderness, a vulnerability that made my heart ache. "You trust me," he murmured between kisses, voice rough yet intimate. "You trust me despite everything." I nodded, swallowing hard. "I do," I admitted, even as my pulse thundered in my ears. "I trust you. I want you." His hands tightened slightly around my waist, pulling me impossibly close. "Good, because tonight isn't just about desire. It's about connection, about surrender, and you're giving me everything." The city outside glimmered, rain streaking the windows, and the suite seemed both larger and impossibly small. Every touch, every whispered word, every lingering glance deepened the tension, the intimacy, the forbidden thrill. And I knew, without a doubt, that this night, our night, would change everything. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside, wild and unrelenting, and I realized one thing with crystal clarity. No interruption, no danger could break what had begun. Not tonight, not him, not us. The storm outside pounded harder, rain slashing against the windows, but inside the suite it was a different kind of storm, one that raged between us. Every brush of his hand, every press of his body against mine, sent electricity through my veins. My heart raced, breath coming in ragged bursts, and I realized I was teetering on the edge of something I had never allowed myself to feel before. Complete surrender. He leaned closer, lips brushing mine in a slow, deliberate kiss that made me dizzy with anticipation. "Do you feel it?" he murmured, voice low and raw. "The way this us is consuming everything?" "Yes," I gasped, tilting my head to deepen the kiss. I can't resist it. I don't want to." His hands roamed over my back, down to my hips, drawing me impossibly closer. "Good," he whispered against my lips. "Because I won't stop." "Not tonight. Not until you've let go completely." Every nerve in my body screamed, the tension building like a wave ready to crash. Fear and desire, thrill and hesitation, they all mingled into something overwhelming, impossible to ignore. And yet, in that storm of sensation, there was trust, a fragile, terrifying trust that made me want him more than I had ever imagined. "You're trembling," he murmured, voice rough, eyes dark with intensity. "But it's not fear. It's desire. I can see it in you." I swallowed hard, letting the words settle, letting him see everything I was feeling. I want you," I admitted, voice trembling. "All of you. Tonight." His lips met mine again, this time more urgent, more claiming, and the world outside ceased to exist. The rain, the city lights, the distant hum of life, it all faded into nothingness. There was only him, only the heat, the tension, the forbidden pull that had drawn us together and refused to let go. "You're mine," he whispered, voice hoarse with emotion and desire. "Completely, and I'll make sure you feel it. Every second, every touch, every kiss." I pressed closer, letting go of the last threads of hesitation. Every doubt, every fear, every warning dissolved under his hands, under his lips, under the raw, intoxicating gravity that bound us. And in that moment I realized I didn't want to resist. I didn't want to hold back. The night had pushed me to the edge, and I was ready to fall. Ready to surrender, ready to give him everything, knowing that what we shared was dangerous, forbidden, and utterly consuming. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside, wild, relentless, and beautiful. And I knew with every heartbeat that this night and this man would change me forever. The room was alive with tension, every heartbeat echoing in my ears. He held me close, lips against my skin, hands tracing lines that made me shiver and ache in ways I didn't know were possible. Every nerve, every sense, screamed for him. Yet beneath the burning desire, there was something deeper, a vulnerability that neither of us could ignore. You feel it too, don't you? He murmured, voice low and rough, sending shivers straight to my core. The pull, the need, the fire between us? Yes, I gasped, pressing closer, letting my fingers weave through his hair. I can't stop it. I don't want to. His hand slid along my back, pulling me impossibly close, lips claiming mine in a kiss that was urgent, desperate, consuming. It wasn't just desire anymore. It was possession, connection, a dangerous intimacy that neither of us had expected but both craved. You're mine tonight, he whispered, teeth grazing my ear. Completely. And I'll make sure you feel it. Every touch, every kiss, every moment. The words, low and commanding, sent a tremor through me. My body arched instinctively into his, craving more, needing more, every fiber of me alive with the thrill and the danger. There was no hesitation left, only surrender, trust, and an intoxicating desire that burned hotter with every second. I pressed my face against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, letting it anchor me even as the storm of sensation threatened to overwhelm. I trust you, I whispered. I'm yours. Tonight. Completely. A slow, dark smile curved his lips. Good, he murmured, voice rough with emotion. Because I won't let go. Not tonight. Not ever, if I can help it. His hands roamed over me, memorizing, claiming, igniting sparks that left me breathless and trembling. Every kiss, every brush of skin against skin, was a statement of possession, of desire, of something forbidden and utterly consuming. I let myself fall into it completely, surrendering to the heat, the passion, the unspoken promise that this night would change everything. The rain outside hammered the windows, echoing the storm inside. Desire, danger, and vulnerability intertwined, creating a tension that left me dizzy, trembling, and utterly alive. I had crossed every boundary, shed every doubt, and given myself fully to the man who had claimed not just my body, but my heart. You're incredible, he whispered against my lips, voice hoarse, eyes dark with intensity. And it's all mine tonight. But the world outside, it's waiting, and it won't be gentle. I shivered, pressing closer despite the warning. I don't care, I murmured. I want this. I want you. He kissed me again, hard, claiming, anchoring me in the present, in the fire, in the night, and I knew with absolute certainty that whatever came next, I was his, completely, irrevocably. The storm outside had begun to ease, rain tapering into soft, rhythmic taps against the window. Inside the suite, however, the air still crackled with the intensity of what had passed. I was pressed against him, body trembling, heart racing, not just from desire, but from the emotional whirlwind that had swept through both of us. He held me close, one hand tangled in my hair, the other resting possessively at my waist. His chest rose and fell steadily beneath my cheek, anchoring me in the moment, reminding me that despite everything, the danger, the temptation, the forbidden thrill, there was safety in his presence. You're incredible, he murmured, voice hoarse and raw, lips brushing the top of my head. Every part of you. And tonight, you were mine completely. I lifted my face to him, eyes searching his. And you were everything, I whispered. Dangerous, intense, but real, and I trusted you. He pressed a lingering kiss to my forehead, a soft contrast to the fire we had shared. That trust, it means more than you know. You've given me something I didn't expect, something I can't take back. A silence fell between us, heavy with unspoken words and lingering touches. The night had changed something inside me, something irrevocable. I had surrendered not just to desire, but to a connection that went beyond fear, beyond danger, beyond anything I had ever known. "You know," he said finally, voice low, almost a growl, "the world outside, it won't let this be easy. It never does. But tonight was ours, and that no one can touch." I nodded, feeling the weight of his words, the undeniable truth in them. The Mafia boss everyone feared, the man whose name could stop conversations and bend rooms to his will, had let me in, had let me see him in a way no one else ever could. And I knew deep down that I had changed him, just as much as he had changed me. I started, then hesitated. Words felt unnecessary, inadequate. Everything had already been said in touches, kisses, and the unspoken understanding that tonight had rewritten our boundaries. He smiled, dark and dangerous, yet soft in a way reserved only for me. "I'll see you again," he whispered. "Soon, and the world. We'll face it together. But tonight you're mine, and that is a promise." I shivered, heart full, body still tingling from our shared storm, and I knew he meant it. This was more than desire, more than passion. It was a claim, a bond, and an unspoken understanding that whatever came next, we were entangled. The city lights began to fade, rain retreating to distant puddles, but inside that suite the night lingered. Every heartbeat, every glance, every memory of what had passed would stay with us, an indelible mark. And as I rested in his arms, the lingering thrill of danger and desire mingling with something deeper, I knew this was only the beginning. The storm outside had calmed, but the storm between us was far from over. The city lights fade, but the story, our story, is far from over. Dominic Moretti, the legend, the danger, the man who stole a kiss and changed everything, and me, caught in a world I never imagined, yet can't escape. Where are you listening to this story from? Drop a comment below and let me know. I love hearing from you. If you want to see what happens next, if you want to follow every stolen kiss, every dangerous promise, and every twist in the story, hit that subscribe button. Join the BRD Stories Hub and make sure you never miss a single Mafia boss romance, hookup, or emotional roller coaster, because the night isn't over. Not for us, not for Dominic, and certainly not for you.